I need to play that song again. Come on in, everybody, and grab a seat. Oh, man. All the free food is gone already. Sorry, Art. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. Got a few things to talk about and share with you. We'll open it up for Q&A after the fact. Yeah, donuts. Yeah, donuts. In 2 weeks, the potluck. Come for the potluck, all right? We'll make it up for you. I promise. I promise. Well, let me pray for us real fast. I'm sure some folks will trickle in. Tristan, being the supportive associate minister he is already ducking in the last row back there. So awesome. Yeah, I see her go. Excited, though, to be with you guys and share some more thoughts on things we talked about this morning, as well as some other exciting things that God is doing. So let me pray for us, and we'll dive into it. Father, thank you for a chance to be together. It's family here, and we're grateful for that. We just get to talk about really important things and who we are and who we believe you're calling us to be, Father. Grateful that you have spoken into our hearts and in our lives in an individual capacity, that you called us each by name and compelled us to call you out by name, and we're grateful for that. We're also grateful that you speak to us as a congregation, that you've spoken to the leadership recently, and that the elders here and the staff were courageous and faithful enough to listen and to try to obey as best they could. So help us all to listen to you this morning or this afternoon and to just be on the same page. We know that a house divided will not stand, and so we just seek to be combined and unified and all together as we move forward. So thank you for what you're doing in this place. Thank you for the great things you have in store. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's start with a couple of things that are pretty exciting. We want to share with you some attendance trends. So if you're new to the University Church or new to the congregational meetings, we do this twice a year, or we're trying to do this twice a year. It's updates on all things finances, so we'll give you some updates there, updates on some trends and some things happening in terms of the church body, and then any other major issues, kind of like the one we were talking about this morning in service. So that's kind of the hope for today, hopefully a little bit less than an hour. So we're excited, though, to be able to share these things with you. So let's talk about attendance. So on the screen here, you will see our attendance trends. So first service is staying strong at 61 folks, and we love those 61 who come, and they were very talkative today. It was a very talkative 61 today. I'm not going to call anybody out by name. I'll just point at you. So at 61 there, second service averaged about 206, and so total year to date for 2023, it's 267. Now we bring that up because comparing it back to 2022, was about 215, 217 or so. So year to date, it's about a 50-person increase total on Sunday mornings, which is pretty significant. 25% increase year over year in terms of attendance, and we're grateful for that. God is bringing lots of new people to us, and it's not even the fall yet. If you think about it, fall is really our new year, and so we're going to have a lot more students coming around hopefully these next couple of months. So we might, and we've been praying for it, that we would exceed the 300 or 350 average mark at the end of 2023. That's what the eldership was really excited about. The spike is Easter Sunday. Yep. So Easter's right there in the middle. Any questions on that? Pretty self-explanatory. First service has remained at 61 over the last couple of years. At second service, where we're really seeing that growth, in 2022 it was 217. And in 2023, it's been 267, so 50 people more on average in second service. Okay, speaking of new people coming around, we have new believers coming around. We even had someone professing their faith this morning, which was super exciting, kind of putting Christ on in a new way. So we have had 21 baptisms in the church over the last couple of months in 2023, so we're really excited about that. We've had everyone from single moms who have recently joined our congregation to teenagers, young adults. Obviously, lots of college students have professed their faith. We've had families baptizing children, parents baptizing their parents. So it's been kind of all over the place. It's been pretty exciting to see what God is up to. So we do have a list of those folks. We think we've got everybody, but this little handout, if you will, is in the foyer. If you want to grab one of these up, lots of folks like to know the names of people and be praying for them specifically. So these are the folks that have kind of put Christ on in baptism in 2023. Really exciting about that. All right, let's do budget stuff real fast. First thing is the power of one. So we introduced this back in May, if you remember. It was during our Holy Spirit series. And over the last couple of years as a church, we've had to cut back on our benevolence giving or a budget line item, if you will. That's one of those that you can kind of have a little bit of wiggle room on, right? You can't cut the mortgage off. You can't cut the lights off. And so when times were tough, we cut back on benevolence. So one way that we as a staff kind of thought creatively about getting that back up was a campaign called the Power of One. So this is an option for us every Sunday individually to come and bring $1. And $1 by itself doesn't do a whole lot, but if you get $267 in that thing every week, maybe $400, $500 week in and week out, now you can really help some people. And we were able to do that. So year to date, we have raised over $2,100 with our Power of One. So we're averaging about $325 per week. In that, sometimes people put 50s or $100 bills. I love seeing the kids put their $1 in there, but we do it at the end of each service. And then Monday morning, we take that money and the staff just kind of thinks through and prays through those who are most in need. And we just divvy it up based upon those needs that we've heard about or that we've received. So we've helped some people pay rent. We've helped some folks kind of make ends meet with other bills and utilities. We blessed an individual that's very close to our church that was really struggling with the beginning of school, caring for their son and daughter, the kids. And so that we just wanted to bless them and say, you use this money to do what you need to do at the beginning of the school year. So we've probably got about $600 in that fund right now that has not been used or claimed. We can use that for any number of things. So if you know of a need or have a need, please come and find us. That's exactly what that money's for. If you've got a neighbor, a classmate, a coworker, and you think that they're on hard times or struggling in one way or another, come find us. If a gift card or cash or some sort of blessing would be a benefit to them, then we want to use that money just for that. Okay? So we're excited. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have over $4,000 or $5,000 in there or have raised that money, and that's a pretty neat benevolent exchange. We haven't had that for a long time, and so we're glad to be back to doing that. Okay, let me do another slide real fast. This is our regular budget. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense to you, but let me just explain it to you. So this is our year-to-date giving. The blue line is kind of what we need. We need to average right around $15,000 a week to hit our budget. Our budget is $780,000. That includes everything from buildings and grounds, staffing, maintenance, all of our programming, everything that we do is in that budget. Okay, so you divide that by the 52, you get about $15,000 every single week. As you can see, we are averaging just a little bit less. You can't really see it there, but take my word for it. You put all those red lines together, and the average is about $14,000 a week. So we're short about $1,000 every week. So year to date, we are $30,000 short, which makes sense. We've already had 30 weeks. We're in a little shortfall right now of about 30. Move that forward for the rest of the year. How many weeks are there in a year? 52. We project that we'll be $52,000 short for 2023. There's good news and bad news in that shortfall. The good news is that is less than half of what we were short last year. If you remember this time last year, I was begging and pleading for money. We call it the 100K in 100 days challenge because we were projecting to be $120,000 short in 2022. So being $50,000 short is less than half of what we had experienced last year. That's the good news. The bad news, we're still short. So we need to figure out what that means and kind of how we can remedy that. Typically in church settings, at least in this church as well as the churches that I've been a part of before, your December is a double month. You typically receive double in December, year-end giving, as you would throughout the rest of the year. So if we average around $60,000 a month, which is what we do, if you were to double that in December, we would meet our budget, right? We would actually probably be in the black, maybe $5,000. But can we bank on that double December? I would prefer not to. I hope that it's a triple or a quadruple December, but you never know. Last December was actually less than a single month, so we can't really bank on that stuff. We are hoping that we'll be able to meet it come the fall, and if not, we will just make a year-end plea towards the calendar year, towards the end of the calendar year, I should say. So 50,000 short projected. We're hoping we can make that up in the fall as numbers increase and people come back and school's in session and all that stuff. But if not, we'll just have to do a really big push towards the end of the year to try to make that. The goal is to hit 15,000 every single week so that if we have a double December or a triple December, those extra monies can then go to different programs, projects, capital improvements. Whereas right now, all the extra that we get is used to pay the bills throughout the course of the year. Does that make sense? If we get extra, we'd love to stock it away, put it away, or earmark it for a special project. So let's talk about that a little bit. Here's some special projects that we kind of have in mind or things that are just on the horizon that we know are coming at some point. The youth vans, as awesome as they look with the cool splattered paint job and chipping paint and man-made sunroof, right? We we probably need new vans at some point. We have been blessed with the ability and people to care for those vans and get them running as well as they can given their age and mileage. But all of us know at some point that will probably come to an end. So we got to think about new vans. We've kind of been on the lookout, putting out some soft feelers to different dealers and that kind of thing, but they're expensive. 15-passenger vans are extremely hard to find and then insure. And so we're looking at other options, minivans, Suburbans, what's going to be the best for David and his crew. That's pretty much who uses it week in and week out. But we do use the vans more than any other church I've ever been a part of. We use those vans every single week. So we're trying to figure out if we can start to save and stockpile a little bit so we can purchase some new vans here in the near future. The children's wing. We have some really cool ideas for the children's wing. So Jaden, right, started as our children's minister a couple of months ago, just this last month. And we've just been walking that space, kind of thinking through ways that we can improve and update that space. So everything from better security, like doors there at the front end so that only people that we really want to be going back into that hallway can go into that hallway. Camera system, those kind of things are on our mind. And also this room right here is kind of off the side. It's called the kids' clubhouse. That's probably the worst space of all. It's just beat up. The carpet is trashed. The painting along the wall, which Rhoda did, is awesome, right? Our mural space is great, but we need to rethink everything else in that room. The lighting, the ceilings, the flooring, tables, chairs, all of it. So that's really high on our priority list. But there's some estimates as to what that would cost just in terms of in terms of product and things that we would need for that space. And the labor's free because we just asked the rest of the staff to do it. Okay. Carpet. When it comes to commercial spaces, you always have to have a carpet budget just because they get beat up. And so we don't have a space right now where it's like, oh no, we absolutely have to have carpet, except for the staff offices. It's terrible. So if we could get some money, we'd probably do some carpet next door in those office spaces. This space, we had a professional cleaner come in the auditorium right before Easter and really helped us out. And if we can get him every 6 to 12 months, I think we can get this carpet to extend its life about maybe another 2 or 3 years. But you always have to be ready with spaces that get high traffic. You're just going to have to replace it over time. Now, can we replace it with something else that will last longer? Possibly, but given the seats and the mounting of the seats and all the screws and everything, I'm not sure what we would do. So just put carpet on the horizon because I feel like that's always going to be something for us. And then signage. So signage, we just don't maximize right now our location given the busiest street in all of Las Cruces, possibly. And so we're trying to figure out how we can utilize our corner spot there on Jordan and University in a more efficient and effective manner. A lot of folks think that we are just like an office building for the university, which makes sense. We kind of blend in and look like that, which is what we want. And there's also a lot of restrictions. This is known as the university corridor. And NMSU has full say over signage, I think a lot of times paint colors, what you can and cannot do on the street, on the sidewalks, and all that. So we are under their limitations. So we have to have temporary signing along the street. We can have some more permanent on the building. But I think we should do that. We've got both spaces that going east and west, and I think we should just maximize what we can do there. So signage is really on our heart. That's a low estimate of $5K. It could probably go all the way up to $20K if we really wanted to go crazy with pre-lit stuff and neon, whatever. So be thinking about that because signage is going to be important as we try to proclaim and really advertise our new name. And that's probably why 95% of you are here right now, is to talk about the new name. Okay, if you were in service this morning, then you heard me share the idea that leadership has been very thoughtful and prayerful about changing our name. This is not something that was done overnight. This was not done in haste, but we decided to change our name to University Community Church, effective immediately. Even on Google right now, it is University Community Church. Let me go into a little bit of detail as to how that process kind of unfolded, how things developed. Some of this will be redundant for those of you that were in service this morning, but it's probably good to hear it all again, and then hopefully I'll share some new nuggets for you as well. So the staff and elders try to have their ears open to two different entities, two different groups of people. One is the Lord, always trying to hear his voice and guiding them in what direction he feels like we should be going. And the Lord was putting on a lot of the staff and elders' hearts this idea that maybe our name was holding us back in different ways. As we were listening to the Lord in that space, we were also hearing people talk about the frustrations they were having with our name. We have a lot of guests that will come in and say, I was really hesitant to join your church or to be a part of it because of what I saw online or what I heard about the Church of Christ. We've had people tell us, we tried to invite our friends or neighbors or family to Easter, and they just said they know what the Church of Christ is all about and they don't want to be a part of it. So there's a lot of negativity, it seems like, or misunderstanding or baggage, whatever you want to call it, as it pertains to the Church of Christ. From my own experience, a lot of folks have either had a bad experience with it. They went to a very legalistic church, very dogmatic. Maybe they grew up in it. Maybe they were forced to go. Or they have no experience with it at all. But I do encourage you, and I think some people were actually doing it during service today. They were Googling Church of Christ. And as is the case with most things, you are going to find the most extreme examples of things, right? Early on. Those first couple pages is all going to be like clickbait. But guess what? Most people won't go past the first couple of pages. And so if and when they see all the negative things that I would say a portion of the churches of Christ maybe believe in or adhere to, not all of them, but if you see that, then you will probably not see or hear anything else, no matter what I tell you. And honestly, in my 20 years of ministry, I've spent 15 of them in the churches of Christ. A lot of times I will say, yes, we're a church of Christ, but we're not a church of Christ. And that is just such an awkward conversation to have. Now, the elders and the staff have really wrestled with the idea of, should we keep that name in the hopes of redeeming it? Can we remain part of a movement and in keeping the name, keep the relational connection, because we have no organizational connection, they're all autonomous churches. But can we remain in that in the hopes of trying to maybe move it forward? And I think we've tried that over the last 5 years or so. When they went instrumental but kept the name Church of Christ, that was really what they were trying to do, is we want to show the rest of the churches how you can move forward, how you can kind of push beyond some of the traditional understandings of church and be more influential and relevant in your community. Well, the last 5 years, I don't think we've changed any of their churches of Christ in their understanding of things. Like, we're not that connected to them. We're not that influential, if you will. And to be honest with you, I don't really care to be that influential with other churches. I want to be influential in my community. Other churches can do what they think is best for their particular setting. I want to do what's best for our particular setting. So we wrestled with this. But as we were really praying through this, we were reading articles together and praying over the options, we felt like the Lord made it very clear to us, that he spoke very clearly to us and said, it's time to remove that name. And it was unanimous among the staff and the elders. It was just more a matter of how can we do it well and what will we call ourselves moving forward. It was not a question of should we do this or should we not. I apologize even this morning when I was kind of acting like a little bit afraid or whatever. We're not afraid. It's just unknown. And so when you chart unknown waters and make a big decision like this, you're just not exactly sure what the fallout might be or what the next steps might be. But the elders and staff are not afraid. And the elders and staff are not apologetic, because they believe we have heard from the Lord on this, that he says, you are a community church who I'm going to use to bless and serve this community. Call yourself by that name, and I will bring the community to you. And we are excited about that proposition. I don't want to go into some of the things I talked about this morning. If you want to talk to me about some of the maybe stereotypical or negative associations that the Church of Christ has with it, I'm happy to do that. But many of those things, if not all of them, do not apply to us. Like, our theology is just very different than a mainline Church of Christ. And so even in our new members classes, we will talk about like where we came from. The Church of Christ was started kind of mid to late 1800s as a back to the Bible, non-denominational movement. It was a Methodist and a Presbyterian and a Pentecostal, and they were like, man, we're so divided, we should come together and just be Christians. What if we did a non-denominational church and just called ourselves the Church of Christ? It was an amazing movement. It was an amazing idea. No creeds, no governing boards, no authority but the Bible. And guess what? God blessed it because it was God-centric. But over time, what has seemed to be the case is that particular movement got a little prideful, as most movements do. And they believe, yeah, that's right. And they believe that over time, they were kind of doing it the right way, if you will. Well, doing it the right way suddenly turns into we're doing it the only way. And now it's the better way, or the only way, however you want to describe that. And so it seems as if there became this kind of arrogant spirit, a little bit of dogmatic approach to things, became somewhat elitist, and now the worst of the versions are very cultish, saying the Church of Christ is the only one true church, they're the only ones going to heaven. Now, if they have every right to believe that. I don't think that's scriptural at all, and we do not believe that here. The elders do not adhere to any sort of limited salvation, one church model. Creation is very diverse. God's church is very diverse. We are a singular expression of the church here at University, And we will cheer for and celebrate and partner with other churches in this town if they can help reach people for Jesus. That's what we're all about. So it's been sad. It's been hard. I was baptized in the Church of Christ. I've been a minister in the Church of Christ for years and years and years. Some of our elders born and raised in the Church of Christ. This is not a decision that was made lightly. And it wasn't just flippant, like, yeah, what's a name, whatever, just slap community on the title there. This was very thoughtful, very intentional. And I think there was some, what do they say, with fear and trembling, the scriptural example of just with great humility, and I think a little bit of God, would you go with us because we're a little scared, we're a little unsure of what this might look like. But we are confident in the decision itself. So we're going to switch to community church. In our understanding of things, the title community church is really a safe term for people. It really is something you can say to somebody, and immediately they kind of understand who you are. We were wrestling with some other names, but all the other names that we had available to us, at least the ones that would help us keep our logo and kind of the UCC branding, all of them had another layer of explanation that were needed. So if you were to say Christ Community or Christ Church or something like that, somebody would say, okay, what's that? And then what would we say at the end of the day? It's just kind of a community church. So community church was always going to be the default answer. It's going to be where we always go. David is the one answering the phones more often than not, and he can tell you when someone calls and asks, what are you about? Who are you guys? What's your church like? He almost always says, we're just like a community church. Guess why? We are. It's a great answer because that's really who we are. Autonomous church, multi-denominational, lots of religious backgrounds and understandings and stories come together, right? Independently governed, Bible only, no other creeds, everyone is welcome. It's a community church. So we're excited to be able to kind of brand ourselves or explain ourselves in and through our name. We talked a little bit about how the name is risky or the name change is risky. We get that, how it might be messy, it might be costly, but in light of Mark 2, in light of the sacrifices that the New Testament church was willing to make for the lost, we feel like this isn't that risky at all. This is not asking us to do a whole lot. I could have literally this morning said, we want you to sell every single possession you own. And that's the risk we're going to take for the lost. That's next Sunday. So come back and join us for that. We're literally, feeling sick. Yeah, maybe those donuts aren't so appealing anymore, right, Art? The sacrifice is simply to lay down a man-made title and to say, Lord, we just trust you with this name being a safer, more welcoming name. Now, there are those who do believe that like the title Church of Christ is the only biblical name or title that the Scripture calls for or allows or speaks to in the Bible. I can understand that argument, but I don't think that it's true. Because in the New Testament, Christians are called by several different names. One is the Church of Christ, but one is also known as the Way. In Acts 19, they refer to those who follow the Way. And so to make that argument, I think it's got some holes in it, but I understand why they want to pick the most biblical name you could. We love the name Church of Christ. We wish it could stay Church of Christ. It's not the name, it's all the associations that go with it. It's the fact that it's going to take you 45 minutes to apologize for or explain how we are not like that before your non-believing friend or de-churched neighbor or coworker will even give you the light of day and attend services with you here. Why would we do that? Why would we put more barriers and obstacles and hurdles in people's way? How about when you say, I'm from a community church, and they tell me the next question isn't, is that the people that believe X, Y, and Z? The next question is, what's God up to in that church? Or how do you see God moving in that church? Or would I be welcomed in that church? Or what are you guys learning about in that church? See how those questions are so different? It's more optimistic, it's more positive, it's more what's God up to versus what is man up to. And that's what we want to be about. So the name change, we're moving forward on doing that. As David mentioned in first service, I don't know if Jackson said anything at second service, UCC will be what you can write on the checks moving forward. That's still going to work. Christian Community Church will be available to us very shortly as we get all the legality worked out, but Church of Christ will still be available to us as well. We will be, I forget, Nick, how did you say it? It's doing business as. That's how we're going to do it kind of legally speaking. So it'll be University Church of Christ doing business as University Community Church. That doesn't make any sense to you. It doesn't to me either. Maybe it's the other way around. But both names will still kind of be describing who we are. So for legal purposes, you can kind of fund or participate and give to us either way. If that makes any sense at all. Sorry, butchered that. Okay, last thing I want to say is, with change, the question is always, is this like a slippery slope? Is this just like the first step of many to get to something else? Is this a little back door because you have another agenda? No, like it truly is the name. The name in and of itself is just something that we want to try to remedy and deal with. We're going to keep the same mission. We have the same passion, the same commitments. And I shared that with you in church this morning. Our commitment to baptism. Even this morning, you saw. And Thatcher was so excited. He said, I'm the first person baptized in the University Community Church. He wants us to call that the Thatcher Baptistry. We're not going to do that. But incredibly high view of baptism, weekly communion, right? The priesthood of all believers, Bible only, Bible based, sovereignty of God, our core beliefs, and then of course our core mission and passion, reaching the lost. That will not change. In fact, we think we can even do a better job of those things by making this one single change. So that's kind of where we stand. We've gotten some good feedback. We've also gotten some hard feedback, but we were ready for both. So we'll open it up a little bit this afternoon. Questions. I'm going to repeat the question because we are live streaming this right now and we are recording it for those that want to go back and watch it again or who can't join us this afternoon. So I'll repeat that question. If you could say it nice and loud for me, then I'll repeat it and then we'll do our best to answer. And if any of the elders or any of the other staff members want to jump in and say something, please do. So let's open it up because I know you guys have a lot to think about or a lot that you are thinking about, maybe a lot to say. This is a safe place, family. Let's talk about what's going on. Yeah, Larry. Yeah, that's right. So Larry's saying that when we were renaming it, we really did our best to work within the acronym UCC because we believe that is well known in town. It has good connotations. People respect it and are excited about it. And so we did our absolute best to keep UCC. When the Baptist church about 10 years ago, many of them decided to drop the title Baptist because they felt the same way, that it was kind of negative and wasn't a great description of who they were. They went with names that were very, very different, right? Even like Real Life here in town. That's a Baptist church. But they've just decided to drop the connection to the Baptist and just make themselves kind of a title. So we thought about that, like was there going to be an option for us to do a name? You've seen churches that are just like a number, like 810 or 1214 or whatever it is. It's a little too hip and cool for us. So we thought that community church was a safe thing and it maintained the UCC, which we're really excited about. We're also working hard in our marketing to make sure that AFC, which is our Aggies for Christ, and UCC, University Community Church, are paired a little bit more together. It seems as if a lot of students know about AFC, but they don't know a lot about UCC, and then vice versa. So we're just trying to think in terms of marketing. Can you say, University Community Church, home of Aggies for Christ, or Aggies for Christ, part of University Community Church? So we're going to do a little bit better of marrying those two together so that folks understand the connection. Nick does a great job of explaining that on Wednesday nights, but maybe those who just kind of see it aren't sure how that all works. All right, other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's a great question. So the question was asked, will changing our name, and I might be putting more words in your mouth than you're saying, will it affect our connection with other groups or churches or organizations moving forward? Is that right? Okay, yeah, there's Fabulous 13, our summer camps. Yep, totally. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit as a staff, and we don't feel like it will. David's got a pulse on it. He's been doing stuff with these groups for years and years and years, and so he felt pretty confident that these groups would continue to be a part of what we're doing and that we would continue to be asked to be a part of that. So Tristan and I are part of like a minister's cohort right now through Pepperdine. That's going to be able to continue on. We've got some different connections with ACU. Those are going to continue on as well, but we think that all the other partnerships will go. Yeah, David, speak to that. Cool. Yeah. So David said, just for those on the live stream, that our connections shouldn't be cut off at all. If anything, they were cut off 10, 15 years ago. We went instrumental. But as of right now, those relationships should remain solid and everybody participating, and will still be allowed to participate as well. Good question, though, Catherine. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. When are we going to have deacons? Okay, good question. Yes, the elders are, so this was the big topic for the last couple of months, as you can imagine, right? This took up a lot of our time and attention. The other big thing that we've already started thinking through and praying through is kind of elders, formalized definitions of the roles and responsibilities of an elder, possibly, I wouldn't say term limits, but abilities to serve in different kind of sections, like 2 or 3 year increments, so that men can kind of rotate on and off more easily, and then also possibly a deacon model, to where men and women could possibly be trained up or raised in different leadership capacities outside of the eldership model. So we are thinking about that. We don't have anything on paper right now. We haven't put a whole lot of thought into it, but it's on our mind. Yeah, and we have a lot of people acting in a deacon capacity. We just haven't formalized the title or made it an official thing, right? We have lots of volunteers that oversee different areas of ministry, and so if we could find a way to really solidify that, we would definitely do it. But yeah, know that that's on our heart. It really is. Yeah, Art. Yeah. But it'd be nice to strengthen them, get them together on a regular basis, find ways to empower their ministry a little bit more than we are doing right now. Other questions? Yes.
We did that sign-up sheets for things to volunteer for.
Yes.
But I haven't heard from anybody about anything that I volunteer for.
Okay.
So are we moving towards that, or is that already in place?
Yeah, good question. Sorry, I didn't repeat Donna's question either. This question was sign-up sheet a couple of months ago. We did a little volunteer fair. There were 6 or 7 opportunities to sign up for a ministry area. I was hopeful that the ministry leaders contacted you in that, but I can follow up with that. So that's a question for Tristan. Tristan, what are you doing with your life? I know that I was able to follow up with the Bible class teachers. I think Joe's going to be speaking, in the fall on Isaiah. He signed up on that list. There's a handful there. We were thinking a little bit more creatively about the greeters ministry. Jaden's been in contact with the folks that signed up on the children's ministry one. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis. So the ones you signed up for just may have been a little bit delayed in their response. But be on the lookout because we really are interested. Those are our greatest needs. And so we're just trying to find ways to really put those folks to work. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So, as David brought up in 2009, we had switched from all a cappella to music. Now we're pulling away from the 1800s version of the Church of Christ, which I really actually respect them following the Bible and everything specific. So now we have a very strong group of elders, a very strong group of ministry. Is there a signed document thing that this is what we stand for and we cannot move from these core? Because what I get worried about is when we watch like Methodist Church and other churches that are major ones and stuff, but they start changing and sliding with whatever social pressures apply to them, and how we could actually stay anchored to God, where we wouldn't have to worry. Because I want to grow old in this church. I don't want to grow old in this church if it's not this church.
Yeah.
So those are the scary things that worry me is that different pressures, and suddenly what this is in the Bible now means this, and now we're doing this.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so the question was more or less, does University Church have like a statement of beliefs or core doctrinal document of some kind, right, to explain where we land? We don't as of right now. On our website, we have a list of core beliefs, I believe, Tristan, is that right? Is it on the website? And then in our U class, we state what our core beliefs and doctrines are. It's not huge in length. We want to make it, these are the main things. We're going to keep them the main things. But in that class, we do state as specifically as we have probably in the last few years where we stand on some things. But you're right, it could be cleaned up and probably legitimized a little bit more. And so we will work on that.
Mutated a little bit, gradually.
Totally. And if it is mutated, in what way or how does that happen, right? Is it an eldership decision? Is it a minister decision? Like who gets to make the call on those things? I think it's a great question. The elders and staff should probably think through that and come up with a document or a statement of beliefs that really describes who we are, kind of the core of us. No, it's a great question, great thought. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. So the thought was asked or posed, does community church, are we truly representative of our community? Are we demographically, socially, economically even? Is there diversity within this body of believers to call ourselves community church? I think it's one of those, like, and David and I have talked about this a little bit, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I think in calling yourself a community church, you are opening yourself up to becoming that much more than you would otherwise. It allows us to really fight for that, maybe more so than we had in the past. Maybe it's just because of the title and you want to be who you claim to be. Maybe it is a more welcoming spirit and others will be more invested. But we have talked about that. We've looked at options, and Tomas is a great resource for us, being one of our elders. How can we reach Hispanic populations, lower economic populations? We're more diverse than you think. I think when you look around, it is pretty white overall, but week to week or day to day, the people that we're serving, the people that we're talking to, it is the community. Now on Sundays, is it reflecting that? Not as much as we would like, but I'm proud of who we are, and I'm proud of who we're becoming. So yes, it's on our heart and our mind, but I think that this change will help us achieve that more so. But if anyone has ideas in terms of how we can be more, I would say welcoming, more meeting people's needs more tangentially, or not tangentially, more tangibly, then we would love to hear those suggestions. It's hard to do it all in a church of 300 or less. I mean, to have a Spanish ministry or to have a Hispanic minister, it's just not what we're capable of doing right now, financially speaking, but I'm excited to see what we could do moving forward to be more of that community. Yeah, Donna had your hand up. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the thought was that becoming a community church and more diverse in those different population groups would be a church-wide mission and not just individual staff members. We do recognize, though, that as a staff, we're very limited in terms of gender and ethnicity. It's pretty one-sided, pretty lopsided. And so we seek to bring in other voices and have other people speak into our ministry because we know there's probably just a bias that we're not even aware of. So we're doing our very best, but I appreciate you asking that question. Great thought. Other questions? Yes? Yeah, I think it's a good question. And elders, you can speak into this if you'd like. We believe that the Lord, in calling us as staff and elders, have given us kind of oversight over things like this. And that as a shepherd, it's God. He's calling. He's going to answer the question. Please, someone answer quickly. Great ringtone, by the way. Awesome. That one's not so fun. Yeah, that one's not so good. Okay. Everybody's getting called at the same time. It's like time to go, right? The elders and the staff have been tasked with thinking about stuff like this all day, every day. It's what we do. We sit in it constantly. And so we believe that we had the time and the energy, and then we're given the responsibility to think deeply about these things. If we were to pose this question or this thought to 250 people, we would have received 250 different responses. And to try to sift through that would have been incredibly difficult. Over the years, for me, when we've done a survey, it has turned out to be one of the most divisive things that a church can do. Because everybody's going to say, well, I want this, and I want this, and, well, I thought you said you were going to listen to me. Like, well, we were, but we didn't say we were going to do what you said. And so we believe that because we are in it all day, every day, that we were best positioned to hear the Lord, to really discern His will for us. And then we brought the elders in, and all those guys were just sitting together. I mean, many a Sunday afternoon, which we couldn't do with an entire church in this setting. It needed to be more intimate, it needed to be more intentional, and it needed to be limited. And so we decided that we, called as leaders, were given that responsibility, and so we made that decision. But I do appreciate you saying I would have liked to be a part of it earlier on. I think that would have been incredibly difficult to do with a group over 200. Okay, no, you have every right to. Other people have asked that too, this morning someone said, I would have loved to pitch some name ideas or been a part of the process of thinking of a new name. And we get it. We also feel like the elders and the staff represent most of the church body pretty well. Our elders are very connected relationally, ministerially, and so they know the church. They have small groups. They have people in their homes. They're leading Bible studies, and so they can kind of speak on their behalf, almost like their delegation, if you will. They know their people. And so we felt like the Lord was speaking to them as well as through them about what the church body as a whole was believing. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different answers to that. Part of it is not everyone's in a small group, so that wasn't going to be fair to some who were and some who weren't. And then if we offered it to some, then people would be mad that they weren't given an opportunity to share. Most of it truly is when you spread something so thin, the chances of a decision being made kind of quickly, efficiently, as well as in a very healthy way, in my experience, goes way down. And so we are just asking the church to trust us as appointed elders, men that have been appointed by the church, as well as staff members that the elders have hired on. We're asking you to trust us as a leadership. And it's hard to do at times. I totally understand that. You know me a little bit. I was telling the staff this past week, my relational credibility with you all is only 16 months deep. And so it's not years and years and years of me proving myself to you. But these elders, they've proven themselves to you, 100%. And so I'm just asking you now to trust these men, and every single one of them believed in this decision, and they believed in that name. And so these men have blood, sweat, and tears in this church, maybe literally on this carpet. That's why it's so ugly. But they have poured themselves out for this church. And when they all collectively said, this is the way that we want to go, we believe that was the Lord speaking very clearly to them. And that, as an appointed elder, was their responsibility and their right to make that decision. But I appreciate you asking, why weren't you involved? We did wrestle with that, but if you aired that out, we would still be talking in circles probably 2 years from now. Yes, Mr. Denny. And I'm sorry, I didn't repeat the question. It was more or less, why wasn't the congregation invited to participate in the decision to change the name and or in the new name? Yeah, the thought was reaching the university campus, which is one of the most diverse populations in the world, right? A university campus brings people from everywhere, international students, every ethnic group, every economic group. Reaching them, if that's our first priority, then we have to be very intentional with who we are, what we offer, who we're seeking to become. Is that right?
And that was one of our early discussions is, should it be university? Because we, the elders and staff, we talked about that, and it was sort of like, we really like the focus that having university in the name gives us in terms of the ministry, because we can ask the question of, does this, our primary mission is to see to the needs of students who come to university, and they're going to be here for 4 years and they're going to go. Are we doing that? Does some particular program that we want to do, does that make sense in that context? And if it does, then it's something that we're much more likely to accept that. If it doesn't, then we're going to look at it and say, well, okay, let's do that, but we need to do it in a
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So next time she comes and complains to me, I'm just going to send her straight to you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's right. Yeah, the elders and the staff were so intentional with the name, right? The university part of that. We toyed around for a few seconds with should we not have that as part of our name, but every single person was in agreement. That is why we are here. I mean, it is foolish to not say that literally 15 feet across the street is not our greatest missional opportunity. We are planted here for that reason. We've had great success over the years to reach the campus, and so we're just excited to continue that mission. Now, to reach them, I think you have to show them what a healthy marriage looks like, what healthy families look like, what it looks like to pour into little ones, what it looks like to have fun as men, right, of every age, what it looks like for women to gather. And so we're reaching them by doing life well together. We talk about every generation coming together to reach the next generation. It's not just college age, but we need to have them be the priority. But as we become more like Jesus together, then they will be more attracted and more drawn into what a Jesus life really looks like. And it's sad to me that as I'm connected to other people who lead university churches, very few of them still have a heart for the university. It just kind of is like where we're located. We're just on Main Street by the university. Like, do you have any college kids? A couple. A couple? That's why you exist. Sell your building. Give it to somebody else. May that never be said of us. Like, this is who we are. And I think Chuck's exactly right. We have that in our name specifically so that we will never forget that. But also it is something that we need to do well as a community, as a church, so that we can reach them well. We're not just introducing them to a worldview. We're introducing them to a way to be in the world. That makes sense? So it's a theology, but also it's a lifestyle. And that's where the church comes in for that. All right, other questions? A few more minutes here. Yes, Mr. Roger. Right. Yeah, and if you were to look at the list of the baptisms, I think it's 85% of that list. I think it's 17 out of the 21 are 20 years of age or younger. And so the Lord is bringing us everybody, but it seems as if the young people are the ones who are continually making that response, that decision, earlier and earlier. And so we want to be here to receive them and help them to make that decision. So love that thought, Roger. Thank you. Yes, Larry. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago when you guys decided to go instrumental, I mean, that was really a difficult decision because that's where the rubber meets the road. People have worship preferences and passions. And if you're not doing it their way, then they're out. And that's sad because it is a little bit more of a me first mentality versus what will help reach the lost. And I think that how we are doing church, who we are becoming, the programming that we're offering, the things that we're teaching, the people that are part of our ministry right now, this is a healthy church. This is a very attractive church. This is a church that can provide resources to those who are hurting relationally, emotionally, financially. It's an exciting time to be at University Church. And I think others, to your point, Larry, will start to come in. And I think we will all be blessed by that as we make ourselves less and our passions and our preferences less and make the gospel and the mission more. That's the goal. And I told you that story early on, like, turn it up, Sonny, right? The old lady didn't like the music, but she, turn it up, Sonny. It's kind of what we're asking. We're saying, dig it up, Sonny. That's the new phrase this year, all right? Turn it up and dig it up. Yes.
In the military, one of the things we were taught is that we should always be training our replacements. And I think UCC's job is to train our replacements.
Yeah. Yeah, so Art is talking about just kind of helping create a pattern or a process where the next generation is constantly being raised up in the Lord. I just want to speak real fast, and hopefully this will make sense, but I am so proud of these elders for making this decision. This was not done lightly. These men are so courageous. I have been in so many churches, they would never do something like this because, well, so-and-so gives a lot of money and they're not going to like it. And so-and-so's been here for 30 years and we can't upset them. They have made the decision based on one or two families. And these men said, we love those families and we don't want to lose a single person. We prayed for that a couple Sundays ago. But Lord, if that's what it takes so that we can reach thousands of other persons, then so be it. So just thanks to the elders. Like, I was nervous for today, but I was so excited. I've always wanted to preach this sermon today. And I got to do it because of you guys. So, yeah. And there are comments, questions. Got about 1 or 2 more minutes. Yes, in the back. Is that good or bad? Yes, Donna.
Just to throw out to us older people, there's a lot of kids over there away from home. We can all be the moms and dads
Yeah, that's right.
for them.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, starting next Sunday, we have an opportunity to be a community, a family for thousands and thousands of students. So we're praying hard for that. Brothers and sisters. Well, the conversation doesn't need to end here, even though our time is up. Continue to ask questions. The elders will remain around for a few more minutes. I'll be here. The staff will be around as well. But just know that we are excited about this. There is a little bit of uncertainty and unknowns for those that have been a part of the Church of Christ for 50, 60, 70 plus years. This is a difficult day, and we understand that and appreciate that very, very much. But I don't think that changing that name removes us from the heart and the mission that we've always had here. In fact, it just solidifies it, just strengthens it. Yeah. Yep. Miss Brandy. Yeah, I think to Brandy's point, something that I haven't said before, but I think that this change positions this church to be successful for years and years and years to come. The Church of Christ as a whole is not growing. If you look at numbers kind of across the country, and the pool of folks graduating from Church of Christ colleges or coming out of Church of Christ seminaries, if you will, that number is not increasing. So I feel like this name change positions us for success moving forward, because now it seems like we're going to open arm to so much more talent, so many more understanding, just a lot more people. Not so much the fact that we'll change our theology, but hopefully you just understand like more people at the table is a beautiful thing. And I think that does this well for us. It positions us well moving forward. It doesn't limit us to specific people or candidates or understandings, and so now we can have great conversations with a lot of different people. That's going to bode well.
And, just for the record, when you first announced it during the second service, I was a little miffed because I have great ideas. Oh, you'd love my ideas. But when I went home and I ate and stuff, and I was thinking about our elders and over all these years, all the ridiculously tough decisions that they've made.
That's right.
And your heart breaks for them it seems like every 8 years or so, you guys go nuts.
No, they don't go nuts. Someone else goes nuts. They got to clean it up. Yeah.
You think about it, and knowing that there are elders and how much they care to stay on the straight and narrow gives me hope. And that's where my initial question came from is I know we're not going to have the same elders forever. And then when you were talking term things, it really made me a little twitchy on the inside. Because it's like whatever this new feeling is that now going to direct us away from God?
Totally.
So one, I have really good ideas. And two,
Noted.
couldn't have a better group of elders.
Yeah, that's right. Great point.
Then we spin the wheel.
That's right. That's right. All right, well, let me pray for us, and then we can continue the conversation more kind of interpersonally or one-on-one. But please feel free to reach out. Come talk to us. Emails are okay, but we're not going to be able to hear your heart or your struggle if there is that in the email. So come and find us. Let's just talk about this. And we want to make sure that everybody is at least understanding of where we're coming from and what we believe we heard from the Lord, and just trying to be faithful to that call, faithful to what we heard. So let me pray. God, grateful for this group of people and grateful for today, the big day for this church. And we thank you for speaking to us and hopefully speaking through us in some way today. We just ask that you will guide this church and bless her moving forward. She has a powerful call and a powerful mission, God, to reach not only the campus, but the entire city for Jesus. And that is a task that is so much greater than anything we could ever accomplish on our own. It's going to take more than just a neat new name to do that. It's going to take people who are sold out, committed, selfless, and humble. And so we ask that you would make us just like that. Make us like Jesus. Help us to put our own needs on the shelf, to consider others' needs above our own. Help us to consider the lost, that we have already been found. Our inheritance and eternal destination is secure. Help us to go and minister to those who don't know where they're going, who don't even know who they are right now. So help us to keep our mission at the forefront of all that we do. We're hopeful that this name will be a great light, a beacon, if you will. That folks will be drawn into this place because they think that it is safe, that we will see them and know them and love them well, that we are all about Jesus, and that's who we want to be. So would you help this name change to be successful, and would we see great results and growth as a result of that? But again, thank you for today. Thanks for some honest, candid conversations. We look forward to what you're going to do in and through this place in the weeks and months to come. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, thanks again for being here. If you have questions about budget stuff, attendance stuff, name change stuff, please come find me or one of the elders.